So in this video, we're going to take a look essentially at how to rig our really cool sphere model here. I want to show you an example though of a different model that's made up of the same process and that actually has joints. And joints are part of this rigging process. So I'm going to pause the video and switch over. Alright, so here we have a character mascot I'm doing for this amazing company. Um, and what they do is they treat vision therapy in kids. And so they wanted a cool robot that can sort of show kids like all the different elements of VR and all this other cool stuff. So this is a robot I designed for them. Really fun guy. You could see here that his joints are made up of the same spheres that we created in the other video. The head is an elongated sphere that's flattened out and extruded in. Same thing with the feet, right? It's a sphere cut in half. He's got some cool stuff. And I went ahead and animated a walk cycle. What we'll be doing in the next set of videos, essentially or future videos, is we're going to actually do a ball for a sphere, or like a sphere for body, and then legs. We're going to build out the same walking rig that I have here. You can take a look at what the joints look like here. It's your set of these joints, and the joints drive the movement of the mesh or the model that you make. So let's go ahead and jump back over to that sphere and let's knock out the rig. So you've probably jumped in and out of this scene several times over the course of a couple days. What we want to do here is we want to fix up our sphere, or we want to make sure that we're looking at the same thing. So at the top here, what we're doing is we're rigging our model. So go ahead and select rigging. That's this guy here. So you might be in Maya Classic. And what you'll notice is at the top is we want to build joints and skeletal stuff. And when you switch to rigging, it gives you these new options for rigging. So let's go ahead and hit spacebar on our scene here. And we want to go back to our front view. And let's go ahead and do edit, delete all by type history. So that cleans out the history of our model. Modify, freeze transformations. And what I did is I went up and I double clicked here and I renamed my ball Bally Shore, right? It's kind of a spiff on one of my favorite comedians growing up. Anyway, so in here, if I go to my front view, so another way of accessing that is if you hold the spacebar key down and you hold the right mouse button, you can go to front view, and there we are. So what I want to do is to create something called a joint chain, okay? And what that does is it allows us to, again, create skeletal joints, kind of like the skeleton in your body, that will move the skin or the mesh of our sphere. So let's do that. The first thing I want to do is turn this thing called X-ray mode on. If I don't have it on and I create a joint, so I'm going to go to skeleton, create joint, I'm going to click in the middle. Notice I can't see it, but if I turn this option on, it shows me where my joint is in my scene. So let's go ahead and backspace that and do that together. So go ahead and turn that on. So go up to skeleton, create joint. I'm going to click in the center here. And then one more time at the bottom. And I'm going to hit enter. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to create one more joint up here. So let's go up to skeleton, create joint. And then at the top here, I'm going to create one more joint. Now, because I created this separately, it is not connected to the center joint. So I'm going to go ahead and, with this one selected, hold shift, select that center joint, and then press the P as in parent or Paul or people key, so P key, and you'll notice it connected it. Now I could, these are a little big and I want to kind of shrink these joints down. I could go in and hold shift and select each one individually. A pro trick is if I select this middle joint, notice that this joint here is our root, and we're going to rename it that in a second. And the reason I know it's the root is because we have everything running to it. If I select the center joint and I type in here, select the key above the P, which is the dash, high, and I just press enter, you'll notice the two bottoms one turned right and the last joint turned green. And on the radius here, I can just make it 0.2 and hit enter. And you notice that it scaled down my joints. So let's go ahead and name these. I'm going to select the center one and type in root. And then this top one, top_J. And then this one, I'll just do BOT underscore J, so bottom underscore J. Now, if I move this around, it's not moving like my robot, right? I want this to be connected. So the way that I bind these together is I select the center joint, I hold Shift, select my sphere, and then go to Skin, and then Bind Skin. So now with this center one selected, I can move the sphere around. If I select this bottom one, you'll notice I can move this around. The problem is it looks kind of ugly here, right? I want it to transform smoothly so that when we're doing our animation where our ball is bouncing around, I can use these joints to do some nice squash and stretch effects. So how do I do that? Well, that's the process is called skinning, right? So I'm going to show you sort of a way of doing it a little bit more mathematically. It doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't an artistry to it and you have to kind of look at the way that these move to get the right feeling that you want. But for now, we're going to do it. I start off everything with a rigid way of doing it, like with math, like just kind of like a structure, and then later you can go in and tweak the values to your liking. So let's select our sphere here, and I'm going to go to Window, General Editors, Component Editor, which is here. And what we're looking for is when we went to skin and we binded our skin, this process here is smooth skin. So we didn't really get into all this stuff, but there's all these different values, and when we go to rigging our characters' legs and stuff, we'll get into that stuff. The process that we did just by connecting it is called a smooth skin bind. Okay, and so what does that mean? Well, let's take a look. So right off the bat, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to vertex mode. Notice if I select a grouping of vertices under smooth skins, it shows me the amount of control this has. So the root right now is controlling this vertice here about 60%. The top joint, which is this one here, is about 30%. Some other joints. These are the actual vertices that I selected. So this is one vertice, and this is the values that it's controlling, like all the way down to the root. The problem with that is we don't want our bottom joint to control the top, but it's sort of Maya gives you an even distribution of control across your joints. So let's fix this up. So I'm going to go ahead and select across. Now you're going to notice a problem. It deselected those verts. The reason is the skeleton takes priority when you're going to select. So how do we fix that? Well, at the top here, you want to make sure that you're on this option here. Click that in and uncheck skeletal joints. Now I can't select my skeletal joints at all. So I'm going to right click in here, go to vertex mode, highlight those top sets of verts, and I'm going to go ahead and hit 5 so you can see that a little bit better. And I know right off the bat, I only want my top and root to control this because there's no point for this chunk of verts here to be controlled by the bottom. So let's go ahead and highlight the bottom joint here. I'm going to hit 0. Oops, let's go ahead and, well, we can just drag these out here. Oops, let's drag that again. Go all the way down. I'm going to make mine a little bit bigger here. And I'm going to hit 0 and hit enter. Now, I want my root to control this 75% and then my top part to be 25%. So let's go ahead and inside of here, actually we can just click on the word root here, and I'm going to move it so these values are all roughly 75%. Or I'm sorry, I want my top to be 75 because that's the part that's the top control. I'm going to move this all the way to the left. So it's roughly 75%. You can also type values in here just a little bit faster with that slider. Let's turn this back on and select this. And what you'll notice now is we get a lot nicer and smoother movement. Okay? Let's go ahead and make this line. So I'm going to go to vertex mode, unselect our skeletal joint here. I don't want it to be controlled by my bottom joint here, so 0. And let's just sort of click on root, and I'm just going to find some place within the 50-50 range. So I'm going to give my top joint just a little bit more control because it's closer to my top. So let's go ahead and select this. Looks pretty good, right? Notice that this is sliding too much off. We're going to fix that. We want the center here to be controlled 100% to my root. So let's go ahead and select that, hit 1. And you'll notice by doing that, it's giving 100%, this center line is giving it 100% control. See how it locks that in place? Don't worry too much about the bottom. We're going to fix that. All right, looks good. Control Z to undo that. Moving down here, we're going to go around. We don't want our top to control it at all. Notice when I was moving it, it was giving me some funky dancing. So top 0, and then let's give it, let's select our root, and let's go somewhere around 50-50. Looking good. Select these bottom guys. Someone around, we don't want our top to control this at all. Let me try that grab again. So for the bottom joint, we're going to go more closer to the 75% range for our bottom joint because it's closer to that. Actually, let's sort of type in 0.5 here because it wasn't giving me such a more of an even distribution of values. It was sort of all over the place. That looks a lot better. Okay, let's test that out. Looks a lot better. So I can do my squishy stuff, and I can do my squishy stuff here. All right. I think this video is getting a little long, so what I'm going to do is save this, and then in the next video we will create our NURBS controllers, which will help us keep track of where it is in place in the universe.